So I'll tell you the bottom line of what I've learned over the last 5 years or so working with the Internet of Things. Nothing really ends up being important that you think is important, and things that you didn't think were important turn out to be incredibly important. And the only way you're ever going to find out is to get in there and start doing experiments. And so today, in talking about the Internet of Things in the home, as it's relevant to real estate, what I want to do is give you two perspectives. Because I don't just want to have you understand what the Internet of Things in the homes is. I want you to also be thinking outside the box in applications of it that you do not normally hear about. So throughout the morning, I'm going to be talking about the conventional view of the Internet of Things and then the unconventional view. Because my goal is to help you not only use the Internet of Things, but to use it in a way that's smarter than your competition. And in order to do that, you have to have a sort of a contrarian view of things. So that's why I call my talk the Internet of Things what it's not. I'm going to give you both a perspective of what it is and what it's not. Now, why is that so important? You didn't see in my resume, but I'm actually a brain scientist. And I've studied how humans have strengths and weaknesses as it relates to their perception of the world. As we look to the future, we think we're looking at a view of the future, but in reality, what I show here is that we're looking in a rear-view mirror. And the reason is that our brains are very unskillful at seeing something that they've never seen before and imagining what it is. So typically, for example, when some new technology comes along, like the Internet of Things, we tend to take something we're already familiar with and say, well, what new could I do with this that makes sense to me? We tend not to see things that are completely foreign to our past experience. And let me give you an example of that. I would like right now for all of you to close your eyes. And I want you to imagine a color you've never seen before. It's very difficult, isn't it? And the reason is you can imagine a color you've seen before, but you can't imagine something that your brain has never experienced. So what innovation is really all about is seeing colors you've never seen before by analogy. And that is why I'm going to give you an idea of how we extrapolate the past into the future, but also a future that might be very different. Now, this has happened over and over again. When the World Wide Web first came out, some of you may be too young to remember it, but what originally happened was that they took magazines that were in print and just put them on electronics, so you had electronic magazines. So it was an extrapolation of old publishing. It took 4 or 5 years for the world to figure out that the Internet was much more like a telephone than a television. That it was much more about creating community, creating a social network, and creating a rich store of information that's surgically targeted for you. The same is going to be true of the Internet of Things as was true of the original Internet. It's going to take a long time for us to figure out what it really wants to be. So I'm going to, again, give you a glimpse of what everyone is now talking about as a buzzword, and also some things that people are not talking about. So to give you some historical context of how we got to where we were is really a fascinating thing to think about. But it almost doesn't matter what the technology is. It follows a path of evolution. First, for example, we had a mundane washing machine, and it was powered by hand. As soon as electricity came along in the early 1900s, it had an electric motor in it. Then we had smart washing machines that had computer chips in it. I have a washing machine at home that knows exactly how dry the clothes are and will automatically turn off. But remember, I said with Metcalfe's law, once something is smart, it wants to be connected because its value goes up exponentially the more connections it has. So what we're now seeing is the emergence of appliances in the home that are connected to other electric appliances in the home and connected to the cloud and the Internet. And how does the value of something like this go up as it connects to other devices? Well, this is a device called the Nest. It's a thermostat that's connected via Wi-Fi to the Internet and to your cell phone so that you can control the device and monitor the device from anywhere in the world. This device also connects to other devices like, let me go back, like a light bulb. And what the advantage is that because the thermostat is connected to the internet, it knows when the location you're in, energy consumption is very high, and it can schedule the use of your appliances so that they will turn on and turn off when energy consumption is low, economizing on energy in your home. But something like the thermostat has many, many more uses. And so what I'm going to do now is show you a short video that shows how a thermostat that's smart and connected to the internet can transform the home of the future. Could you play the video, please?
All around the world, the home is the center of people's lives. It's where you start your day and end your day. It's where you raise a family and make memories with the people you love. So wouldn't it be cool if our homes could be more aware? If our homes could learn from us and help take care of us? At Nest, we do just that. It all started with the Nest Learning Thermostat. Then came Nest Protect. But for us, that was just the beginning. Our goal has always been to bring this kind of thoughtfulness to the rest of your life. That's what Works with Nest is all about. Works with Nest makes it possible for your Nest thermostat and smoke alarm to interact with the things you use every day. Because we make connections between these different parts of your life, we can deliver personalized comfort, safety, and energy savings without you having to do a bunch of work. We've been working with companies big and small to make this a reality, and we're very excited about what we've been able to do.
Up is a combination of a band that you wear around your wrist and an application on the phone that together help track your movement throughout the day. By connecting your Up and your Nest, you can have this complete effortless experience. Because Up's right on the body, we have this rich contextual set of information about what the person's doing in the moment. And so that means those days that you might wake up a little bit earlier, before you even get out of bed, we can let Nest know that, so it can then adjust the temperature in the room to start to be for my daytime. This is about technology, not for technology's sake, but technology in service of a better life, helping us be more human and allowing us to live our lives better.
Why would we ever bring the thermostat and washer together? That's a good question. If you look at it from a perspective of energy consumption, it's an easy one. These are the big energy consumptions at the home, and they're also the ones which require a lot of day-to-day interaction with the consumer. If you have already the thermostat communicating to the utility company, it's much easier if there's one signal going to the Nest, and that is disseminated through the household to all appliances to basically reduce consumption now because we're at the peak. It's just a tremendous consumer benefit, it just happens in the background.
LifeX is a LED light bulb that you control with your smartphone. When we first heard about the Nest Developer Program, we were really excited to be a part of it. With Nest Protect and LifeX, when the smoke alarm event is triggered, we can pulse your lights red, which can help you see in the dark, as well as give extra notification that there's a problem in the house, which is especially good if you're hearing impaired. Nest brings this whole other dimension to LifeX. Who would have thought by combining Nest products and LifeX products we could help save lives?
Automotive industry is in a very deep change. I foresee that in the next 10 years, the changes are going to be more substantial than in the last 50. Likely your car today interfaces with your home through the garage door opener. After learning about the Nest Developer Program, we thought about, how can we take this to the next level? How can we, integrate the car better with your home? As you get into your car and drive home, the car will, in the background, send the estimated time of arrival to your Nest thermostat. So your home can be at the right temperature as you arrive at home. Taking workload off of customers, it will improve safety, it will increase comfort, because people just don't have to think about all these things. It's just great, like magic in the background.
At Nest, we believe these experiences are the future. We're able to connect things inside and outside your home to better anticipate your needs. We're already doing some pretty incredible things, but this is just the beginning, and we can't wait to see what's next.
So I've given you a glimpse of the near future because these products are already on the market. But a little bit farther down the road, where we're headed with this is that everything that's electronic in your home, whether it's your security system, your appliances like the washing machine and dishwasher, whether it's your drapes, which could have motor control, and your lighting, whether it's your thermostat, your heating and cooling, whether it's your sprinkler systems, all of these things today, you generally have to go and manually turn on and off each one. But what will happen is that through your smartphone, this will be the remote control for your life. And it'd be much more than a communication device. And you can individually control any single device. You can program the lights to come on when you want, the heater to come on when you want. You can monitor from anywhere in the world the security of your home, are the doors locked and so forth. In short, everything that's electronic gets smart and connected and gets controllable from this. The advantage to the homeowner is that it's much more convenient to do things through one single device. And you've seen with Google Voice and so forth, you can even control it through your voice. But also, it's going to be more secure because you're going to be able to sense everything and know its state, and it's going to be incredibly convenient. So this is what I call the conventional view of the Internet of Things in the home. And this is going to happen. But a lot of other things are going to happen as well that I want to discuss. The part that's not conventional wisdom. So here we see an example of the home that I just talked about. Something profound happens when you connect all these things not just together, but you connect them to a cloud of the Internet. They become part of a much, much larger ecosystem. And so once you connect, remember I said that the value of any connected device goes up exponentially with the number of different things it's connected with? Well, your home is going to be connected to your office and to your mobile, and it's all one giant electronic space. One way to think about it, again, as a neuroscientist, I find this fascinating, that as a species, we're evolving to have a global brain that connects us through the Internet to each other and to all of our devices. So that once you've connected the home up to what happens in the office and what happens in mobile through the cloud, there are very important benefits that accrue. The first one is, and you got a hint of that in the video, let's suppose that the whole system is really viewed as just one system that defines my life. When I leave home and I get in my car, my office knows that I've left home and it knows that I'm coming toward it. So it can turn on my computer and it can get everything ready for me so that I don't have to do anything when I get to work. In reverse, when I leave the office, my system knows that I've left. From mobile, it knows where I'm going and whether I'm going to be home or not, and it can adjust the lighting, the thermostat, and the security accordingly. Another very important thing that happens when you connect home automation up to your entire electronic ecosystem is that you develop a unique signature or a fingerprint of you that can be used for precision laser-focused targeting from a marketing point of view. I think you heard a little bit about that earlier, that the more any particular retailer or entity knows about you, the more it can surgically target you. And I'll get into this in a little bit later when we talk about big data. So again, the two things that happen are these things start to become mutually aware, and they start to develop a very large digital signature for you. Now, again, getting back to the idea of Metcalfe's law, that the advantage of any single entity goes up exponentially the more things it's connected to. The homes that I'm talking about are not going to be connected in isolation. They're going to be connected to other homes and to cities and whole communities and possibly someday the whole world. Now, why is that important? Well, remember I said that in your home, it knows all the appliances you have, and it can schedule the energy consumption of all those appliances to get maximum efficiency so that you use energy when it's cheapest and so forth. Well, if you take that concept and you apply it to an entire neighborhood and into an entire city that are all connected to each other, the city will know every single electronic thing that's connected to it. And depending upon the policies that users put in, it can schedule when things turn on and when things turn off, and when things are ready when they need to be and when they don't need to be. And in a world where energy is becoming more and more scarce, and it becomes a limitation on how cities grow and how far people can live from work, this becomes enormously important. Another aspect of connected cities is smart highways. Now, here in Brazil, I have personally experienced the very baby steps in smart highways, in that in America, when you see a thing that says surveillance by radar, you know that some police officer may come and arrest you if you go too fast. What I learned the hard way is your cities, your roads are a lot smarter than that in Brazil. If I go 5 kilometers over the 40 kilometers in a electronic speed capture, then I'm going to get a ticket. You actually don't have that in the United States. That's something that I've only seen in Brazil. But that's an example of a baby step to a smart highway, where you put sensors on there. In the future, you're going to see much more. Here's an example. The system knows that I've left my home and I've gotten into a car, and it can actually look at all of the community and say how many cars are leaving and which routes, and it can start to adjust traffic flow to make it more efficient by turning traffic lights on or off in the right pattern to allow for more efficient flow and to route traffic where it should go. Another interesting thing is that more and more there are going to be, you've seen electronic billboards. Well, if the system knows that you're in this car, it can put a display that's unique to you. Again, this idea of precision targeting. So you're driving down the road and you happen to be a sports fan of a particular football team. It will show the score with advertising, the latest information on that football team, exactly at the moment when you drive by. That would be an example. Much further in the future, and Google is leading the way with this, is that your car won't be something that you drive, but something that you will be a passenger in. There will be sensors and computers and wireless networks inside the highway and inside your car, and you will get into your car. It will automatically take you onto a highway, and then it, in conjunction with the smart highway, will drive you all the way to work, so that your own personal car becomes much more like mass transit system. And that, I believe, is inevitable as our congestion in the cities goes up and energy costs and so forth go up. I think we're going to see a lot of that. But one of the things that is outside of the traditional thinking about the Internet of Things is home automation, as I pointed out before, aren't the things themselves, but the data that are going to be generated. So let me talk a little bit about big data. Big data is another one of these buzzwords. How many of you heard the term big data? So most of you had. So let me give you just a few examples of big data and then apply it to the Internet of Things in the home. A classic example of big data, and it basically means when you collect millions of events on millions of different users, you can see very, very slight trends that otherwise you wouldn't see. An example of this is Target. I don't know how many of you heard about what happened with Target in the United States, but it turns out that what Target does is it looks at every single purchase that a particular user makes, and it also mines other data like social networks and things like that. And it knows things about you that you yourself may not know. And here's an interesting example. Women who are pregnant right before their first trimester switch from scented lotions and soap to unscented lotions and soap. And Target learned this by mining reams and reams and reams of millions of data. And what they do now is that if they know you're a woman and they know you're under 40, and they know you're buying lots of unscented soap and unscented lotions, they will direct mail coupons to you or send you over the internet promotions for baby products. And this led to a little bit of problem when a teenage girl in the United States she was in high school, she was only 14 or 15, she started getting coupons for baby products, and her parents, of course, didn't even know she was pregnant. And so that's an example of big data. Another example in the real estate business is Zillow. Some of you may be familiar with Zillow. It's an online service that you can look at the perceived value of a property. And the way Zillow does that is through big data. They don't just look at historical records on what has sold in the area. They look at all kinds of things like social networks, they look at census, they look at geographic data, they look at traffic patterns, and they crunch all of this down and come up with a prediction for what a particular property is worth. So why is this important for the Internet of Things? Well, if you think about all the data that you generate with your clicking to do surfing and navigation, with your cell phone calls, with your purchases, imagine now how many different electronic appliances do each of you have in your home? 100? And if each of those are generating huge amounts of data, we're now going to have an enormous amount of data that we can augment your normal, say, web behavior and purchase behavior. And we're going to be able to do lots of things with that. One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to design homes differently. Once you know exactly how consumers use a home, how much time they spend in one room, how much energy they use, where they don't spend time, you can start to design a home. Like, for example, in my family, we spent all of our time in the kitchen, and we never spent any time in the living room. And so the smart home of the future is going to know that. So that if you see that a particular family has that particular pattern, you may design a home for them, if you're building one from scratch, to have a really big kitchen and maybe a smaller living area. That's just one simple example. Another, of course, is that these homes, if they're designed from scratch to have the Internet of Things in them, will be designed very differently in terms of the network. It turns out that the Internet of Things succeeds or fails based on wireless connectivity. Any of you who've used a cell phone or Bluetooth or any wireless know it isn't always reliable. And it turns out that how you design the home makes a big difference in whether radio signals can propagate or not. One of the most important uses of big data will be marketing, advertising, and sales. Today, if you have a new customer come in, or you want to reach them through a mailing, or you want to reach them through an ad on the internet, you have certain ways of targeting them, demographics, history, and so forth. But imagine that you had all of the data from all of the houses that they ever lived in, and you knew exactly how they use those houses. The big data would help you get surgically precise information about what kind of house, what kind of rental that they're likely to want. Another example of how big data is going to be used is in the preventive maintenance and upgrades. Let's go back to the example of the washing machine. That washing machine is hooked up to the internet, and so it knows when to come on or off based on energy utilization. But the system is also going to be monitoring the current draw, the amount of energy it draws over time. And with very large numbers of washing machines, the manufacturer, say Whirlpool, is going to learn that a particular pattern of energy consumption predicts a breakdown. So often electronic devices will start showing symptoms of things before they actually break down. So they'll be able to get back to you and say, you should call a repairman or have it fixed because something's about to happen. I want to wrap up by making some general observations about where things are going in the far future. Remember I said that artificial intelligence is one of those buzzwords that was on the hype cycle? Well, it's now starting to get there. The Nest, for example, does learn about you, and it can predict what temperature you're going to want and when you're going to want it, and it knows when you're in the house and when you're not. So the Nest is a baby step toward an artificially intelligent house. And I think that within 15 years, maybe even 10 years, you're going to stop thinking about your house as a collection of things, and you're going to start thinking of it as a personality of its own. You will talk to it, and it will talk to you, and you will think of it more and more as a family member. And I think it's kind of interesting coming from the entertainment business that part of what you sell with the house may be a particular character, maybe a movie star that you buy and you read, or maybe a cartoon character if you think your kids like it. But I think more and more you're going to view your house not as technology, but as part of your family. And then you get into a very, very different model of what a house means to a family. I'm going to conclude by one final thought, in that, in a way, I've given you the possibilities of what conventional wisdom says and what unconventional wisdom says. But I would tell you that if you're talking about a radical improvement, as you heard about before, something that is transformative, it may not be in any of the things that I talked about. And when any technology is as young as the Internet of Things is, you always have to say that the big thing, the killer app, is almost never the thing that people think it's going to be. So how do you find the killer app in your world, in your real estate, your marketing, whatever it is that you do? I think there's only really one way to approach it, if you really want to innovate and do things better than the competition. These are two gentlemen who were pioneers of the digital world. Here we have Marvin Minsky, who's the father of artificial intelligence, and he's seen many waves of new technology come and go. And he has a very simple idea for how you figure out what the big wins are. For example, what happens here in Brazil is probably very different than what happens in the United States and Europe. He says, when you don't know what to do, and honestly, in many ways we don't, just do lots of things. That's what's called failing faster. So I would encourage you, if you're interested in this, to just try a bunch of different things for yourself and potentially for your business, and learn for yourself what works for you. Because really, as it was summed up by Alan Kay, who I used to work with, he got the equivalent of the Nobel Prize in computing for inventing desktop computing. He said there really is only one way to predict the future of something like the Internet of Things, and that's to invent it. And that would be my challenge to you. I'm giving you some raw material to think about, but really the future of the Internet of Things in the home and the real estate is in your hands, and the future is there for you to invent. Thank you very much.